Mick Mars had been with Motley Crue since day one. While the other members partied hard and lived loud, Mick was always the quiet one. He didn't say much, but when he did, people listened. His guitar riffs defined the band's sound. He was the soul behind chaos. But deep down, a storm had been building, one that no one saw coming. For years, Mick struggled with a painful spinal disease. Ankylosing Spondylitis twisted his back and made every movement feel like torture. But he never complained. Even when the pain became unbearable, he played on. Fans admired his dedication. His bandmates, not so much. In 2022, Motley Crue announced their big comeback tour. It was supposed to be their final ride. The whole world was watching. But behind the scenes, something was off. Mick looked tired, but he gave it his all. Every show, every note. He was there, even when his body begged him to stop. Then one day, he told the band he couldn't tour anymore. He was done with the road. But he wasn't quitting the band. He wanted to keep writing, recording, and being part of Motley Crue. He just couldn't handle the traveling. That's when things turned ugly. Instead of support, Mick got betrayal. The band announced he was retiring. Not stepping back, retiring. Then came the worst part. They tried to cut him out of the business. After decades of blood, sweat, and pain, they wanted to reduce his share in the profits. Just like that. Mick was shocked. He had been loyal to the band through everything. Drug scandals, arrests, breakups. Now, they were treating him like a hired hand. So, he did something he never thought he'd do. He filed a lawsuit. Brothers turned enemies. The lawsuit hit the headlines like a bomb. Mick Mars, the quiet warrior, was now suing his own band. It didn't feel real. Fans were stunned. The band that had survived the wildest days of the 80s was falling apart. Not because of drugs or death, but because of money and loyalty. Mick's claims were serious. He said the band was faking parts of their live shows, pre-recorded tracks, lip-syncing. He refused to play along. He wanted real rock and roll, not a polished lie. And because of that, he believed they wanted him gone. He also claimed the band ganged up on him, forcing him to sign documents that would reduce his income. Mick had always taken a smaller cut so the others could earn more. He never complained. But now, they were using it against him. Nikki Sixx fired back online. He said Mick was confused, couldn't remember parts, and couldn't play anymore. Fans didn't know what to believe. Was Mick too sick to perform? Or was he being pushed out for speaking the truth? What hurt most was the history. These men had been through hell together. They survived plane crashes, overdoses, and even death. Vince came back after being kicked out. Tommy left and returned. But Mick, he had never left. Now, they were treating him like a stranger. As the legal battle grew, secrets started spilling. Emails, contracts, insider comments. Mick wasn't just fighting for money. He was fighting for his legacy. He wanted the world to know he didn't quit. He was pushed. And the more he fought, the more fans started taking his side. The cracks beneath the glitter. Behind the glitz of pyrotechnics and stage flames, Motley Crue was crumbling. The lawsuit didn't just reveal bad blood. It exposed years of tension, bruised egos, and silent betrayals. Mick Mars wasn't the only one hurting. The cracks had always been there. Fame just papered over them. As Mick's lawyers laid out evidence, the band's internal machine came under the spotlight. Documents showed Mick was barely getting his due. For decades, he had quietly accepted less money, fewer credits. He thought they were a family, but the numbers told a different story. Tommy Lee and Nikki Sixx portrayed the band as a united front. They insisted Mick couldn't keep up, that the tour needed perfection. But fans weren't buying it. Old footage resurfaced. Mick, even in pain, outshining the rest. His solos raw, real, alive. No backing track could fake that kind of soul. Mick didn't want to destroy the band. He wanted respect. He wanted truth. In court, his team made it clear. This wasn't about ego. This was about being erased from something he helped build. And then came the biggest bombshell. In his statement, Mick hinted that the band had been preparing to replace him all along. That they had been planning to use him for the tour's early leg, then cut him out quietly. If true, it wasn't just betrayal, it was premeditated. Fans turned their attention to John 5, the guitarist rumored to be taking Mick's spot. A brilliant player, no doubt. But fans weren't angry at him. They were angry at the way it was done, the silence, the spin, the sense that the band had outgrown its own heart. Motley Crue had always been about rebellion, about sticking it to the system. But now, they look more like a corporation than a rock band. Mick Mars, the quiet rebel, had become the unlikely voice of that rebellion. And the band? They were suddenly the ones trying to silence it. The war for the crew name. The legal battle dragged on, but it wasn't just a courtroom fight anymore. It was a war for the soul of Motley Crue. Who truly was the band? The founders who owned the trademarks? The loudest voices on social media? Or the one man who had never abandoned it? Mick wasn't asking to tour. He wasn't even asking for more money. He wanted fairness, a rightful share, and, above all, credit for what he helped create. Meanwhile, Nikki posted cryptic messages. Tommy shared flashy tour footage. Vince stayed mostly silent. It felt like they were trying to drown out Mick's truth with noise. But Mick had something louder than all of them: sympathy. His story spread like wildfire. Old bandmates from other rock groups weighed in. Some backed Mick. Others stayed neutral. But one thing was clear: no one could deny what Mick had given to rock history. The courtroom testimony was brutal. Stories of rehearsals where Mick was ignored. Business meetings where he wasn't even invited. And perhaps worst of all, text messages mocking him behind his back. From the very people he called brothers. For the fans, it was heartbreaking. They remembered the raw energy of Kickstart My Heart, the chaos of Dr. Feelgood, the madness of the 80s. To think it had all ended in lawyers and bitterness, it didn't seem right. But Mick didn't give up. With each hearing, each headline, his message grew clearer. They could take the stage. They could take the lights. But they couldn't take the truth. Legacy in the crossfire. As the lawsuit entered its final stretch, something strange happened. The louder the band tried to drown Mick out, the more powerful his silence became. He wasn't out there making TikToks or posting cryptic lyrics. He just told the truth and let the world decide. Meanwhile, Motley Crue kept touring. New songs, new shows, but something was missing. Fans began noticing it. The energy, the edge. It was polished, sure. Loud, flashy, wild. But it didn't feel dangerous anymore. It didn't feel real. Online, the tide turned. Hashtags like #JusticeForMick started trending. Old fans shared clips of him shredding on stage while barely able to stand. Rock magazines ran features on his quiet loyalty and suffering. For the first time in decades, Mick Mars was the face of rock's raw spirit. And while the band's team tried to spin it as a sad misunderstanding, documents kept leaking. One memo showed the band reducing Mick's share to just a tiny percentage of the profits. Another email hinted at discussions to replace him long before he stepped down. Fans were furious, not because John Five had stepped in, he was talented, but because of how it was done. Like Mick never mattered. Like history could be erased and rewritten without a fight. But Mick was fighting, not just for himself. For every aging rocker who gave everything and got nothing back. For every loyal bandmate pushed aside when the spotlight shifted. And for every fan who believed that rock and roll was more than a show. In interviews, Mick finally broke his silence. He spoke softly, carefully, but every word hit hard. I didn't quit the band. I quit touring. There's a difference. He wasn't chasing fame. He wasn't bitter. He just wanted honesty. And millions were listening. A final note that echoes forever. The lawsuit didn't end with a dramatic press conference. It ended with silence, legal settlements, confidential agreements. But for Mick Mars, the fight wasn't about winning in court. It was about telling his side before the final curtain fell. Motley Crue continues to play. They light up arenas, drop merch, and post flashy videos. But for many, it's not the same. Not without Mick. Not after knowing what happened behind the scenes. Mick, on the other hand, started working on solo music. Something pure. No filters. No drama. Just sound from a man who's lived 100 lifetimes through a six string. His upcoming album, dark, gritty, unapologetic, feels like a statement. Not just to his former band, but to the whole industry. Fans eagerly await it. Not because it'll top charts, but because it's real. And in a world full of glitter and ghost tracks, real matters. Some say Mick lost the battle, but in truth, he may have won something bigger. his freedom, his voice, his legacy, and perhaps the greatest revenge in rock and roll is surviving. Because when the lights fade and the final chord rings out, only one question remains. Who stayed true? And in that silence, only one name echoes back. Mick Mars.